it's 1 o'clock. I think that we are still waiting for some people to join in at this time. So perhaps if it's okay by you, Diedrich, we'll wait a couple of minutes so everybody are able to log on and be present in this webinar.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's perfectly fine to just wait a little longer.
I'm also here, and I see that my name doesn't appear for some reason. There is a number instead of that. So I'm going to try and make it, turn it into my name.
Okay, yeah, please do. Henrik, är du med i mötet? Okay, great, perfect.
Daniela, do you want to share the file later, or shall I do that?
I can share it, yeah. I think it's...
Okay, but now I think that we'll have we'll actually try to start it.
I'll
try to at least give the background and introduction information. This is the 21st out of our STARS talk given by the STARS EU University Alliance, and we'll have shared knowledge about the different thematic interest groups, what we have done when it comes to digitalization, to healthy aging, to energy transition, and so on. And today we will have a very interesting talk. I totally agree upon that, on regional innovation strategies and perspective of interregionalisation, given by Diedrich Bakkerr and his colleague Daniela from University of Applied Sciences Hanze in Groningen, the Netherlands. And before we give the opportunity for them to give a presentation, I should say a little bit about the practical issues. This webinar is recorded, so it could be viewed afterwards. It will be accessible through the webpage of the STARS EU Alliance, starseu.org. And I hope that you all agree upon that you're participating in the meeting, and that you're aware of this is recorded, and that you could appear if you're asking questions, and your miniature picture and so on could be shown, and yet you accept this according to the GDPR rules. If not, I'm afraid that you need to leave, because it's we are recording this because it's an important thing of what we're doing and trying to share knowledge for those that are not able to join us today for the webinar. Also, that this webinar will be followed in the spring with more and others as well. So please stay tuned and updated through the webpage and our social media of the forthcoming ones. But as I said before, this one's today on regional innovation strategies and perspective of interregionalisation, where Diedrich and Michaela will Daniela, sorry about that, will give a overview of their current research in this topic, which is very interesting. And then afterwards, there will be time for questions and dialogue. It will be up to 1 hour maximum time for the entire webinar. So the presenters have like up to 40 minutes, so it will be some time for dialogue and questions afterwards. With this, I would like to give the floor to Diedrich and Daniela. Please, I am very curious to hear and know more about the research you're conducting and which kind of knowledge that you have gained. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gunnar.
Thank you, Gunnar, for the introduction and also for the organization. The 21st Stars Talk. So that's quite a long range of interesting topics. And I saw a few familiar faces, so that's really nice. If we put Daniela, if we put the presentation in presentation mode, that would be great. Thanks. And indeed, we are talking about a topic that is very close to our daily jobs, Daniela and mine. And perhaps, if I may share a short anecdotal story, how actually we, and in particular I, ran into this topic. It was during Corona times in 2020 when I met with a colleague, and I have a professorship at the Hanze, or I lead a research group, I should say, an international business in the International Business School. And we are keen to work with our multiple stakeholders, whether they are internal students and staff, but also external. And obviously, we like to work in projects, European funded projects. And I noticed when I met with a colleague during the Corona times at my home, actually, that we cannot get through the term international business always, because people, tend to turn away when they hear the word business or international. It's not for me, or we are already international, what's there to gain? But I also felt like we needed to include more stakeholders in our realm of dealings. And we both, my colleague Willem Forthaus, who was a colleague of mine at the Hanze, he retired in the meantime. I don't want to say we coined the word, but we discovered the word interregionalization for us in a way that we thought it was more inclusive and more, well, quite frankly, more interesting for multiple stakeholders. And then when I actually started to get into this topic more substantially, Stars EU, back then it was called Engaged, more and more framed itself towards a European university. And I was also involved in that process. And that really nicely coincided with the things that were going on, both in the research group, International Business, and the formation of our Stars EU European University Alliance that we are, working all are working in now. And regional resilience, as we know, is one of the key topics. We also are very closely connected, both from a topic point of view, but also from a philosophy point of view, with the I think it's Work Package 2, the regional what is it called? The Transitions Accelerator. Now I have a little mental block. But anyway, if we go to the next slide, I will show you that when we thought about the topic, we realized there's actually a gap in literature and actually in theory. There was no, we see the word, the term interregionalization. Actually, I was sitting together at lunch. I'm in Amsterdam today with a native speaker talking about this webinar, and she said to me also, she's Scottish, the word actually in English terminology, spoken English, doesn't actually exist. But it's obviously a term that you find on European funding agencies that is very prominent in our daily work. So I made myself, and it's work in progress, made myself gave myself the task to define the term as, you know, as a good academic should be doing. And since there wasn't one, and you can see here in the black box underneath an attempt to define the term. And what I really want to stress here is that you always talk about distinct geographical regions that you can identify, obviously, and that very broadly speaking work together for mutual gain. And that gain can be in different areas and can be very, very broad, actually. So why is this important? We are all, you know, in Europe, not only in Europe, but we are facing major transitions, among them energy crisis, but also digitalization, circularity, health, labor shortages. When you look at these transitions, they also relate to much of the things that we are doing at STARS EU, and you will recognize them. The idea behind interregionalization, just like networks do when they work together, is that as a single region, you're let's say more challenged to solve these issues. Why not find other regions or other stakeholders that can solve these challenges with you together? STARS EU, as said, promotes shared resilience, capabilities, and innovation pathways. And from many projects that we have worked in, we've more and more seen the transition from an ecosystem perspective. And throughout this presentation today, we would like to give you our view on how we can more or less structure this term, how we can structure this domain per se, and make it also operationable. And we'll give you a few examples throughout and also at the end on what we are doing as a research group. And that's in particular Daniela and myself, and we will give you a few examples that we have been working on in the past years, you can say. And hopefully this is also an invitation later on for others to join, because we are all from distinct geographical regions that are united through STARS EU. So this is a short introduction of what's ahead today, and I'd like to now hand over the floor to Daniela, who will continue.
Thank you, Diedrich. Well, we started with our working definition of interregionalization. Of course, this is something that we will continue working on and perhaps arriving at, as Diedrich already stated, a definition that we can share with the world. And we don't see it yet in the academic research as anything that has been recognized as a prominent line of research, and we see that as an overlooked or a gap in academic research, but also as avenue for future development from the practical side. So basically, what it is about, well, connecting regional ecosystems through research and collaboration. And this is not an abstract concept. Within STARS EU, this is the process through which our research communities, partners, and regions become structurally connected. So this kind of structure that is provided by such a meso-level operator actually is the glue between the micro-level actors. Of course, those are the SMEs, universities, students and researchers within these universities, and other intermediaries. And then we have, of course, the macro-level frameworks, the EU policy, and all kinds of different project-based options that we have also been familiar with, Erasmus Plus, Horizon, and of course, how EU policy is translated into national strategy depending on the priority in specific regions. So what such meso-level structures are actually doing, they're enabling cooperation, alignment, knowledge flows across regions. And basically, we translate these shared strategies into action. We map out what we have in common and what common priorities we have. And yes, we really try to put this into action. So that's why we have a very important role. So working through formal cooperation, including programming governance, and we also recognize the importance of informal networks, which are really trust-based. So when we meet together, when we have talks, when we have conferences, we also build informal networks, which are extremely important as well. And this is one thing that we also want to research further, also related to cooperation with SMEs, because this is also overlooked. And sometimes, unfortunately, at the end of a project, we see that, well, we almost are there. We try to build a network. We have great outcomes, but the impact could be much more long-term and much more sustainable if we could keep alive the informal networks, which of course means a long-term impact, a long-term value, much longer than within the duration of a specific project. So what are the outcomes in terms of added value? Of course, economic partnerships, resource sharing between regions, which addresses the needs that Diedrich already mentioned in the beginning of the talk, because we recognize also labor shortages, and especially cross-border, we can help each other with that as well. And of course, innovation and growth, which of course is a prerequisite for region resilience nowadays in this very complex global environment in which EU has to continue steering and being the leader also in innovations. So this is basically an example how STARS EU is acting on the meso level to connect the micro level actors with the macro level frameworks. And also this is what basically interregionalisation stands for. That's why this topic is extremely relevant for STARS EU as well. Well, moving on, we have attempted to come up with a framework, which of course at some point will also go through modifications. It's just the starting of our work. Of course, we have done already some research, but we see, for example, now the strategic and structural foundations in the regional smart specialization strategies that, of course, have different priorities across regions, but we also see that a lot of regions share priorities and the complementary strengths. This is the unique asset of each region. So the universities, the applied research centers, the specific clusters of SMEs, infrastructure, workforce characteristics. So we have in different regions, different strengths, which can be complementary. This is the strategic foundation, basically. And then we have on the left the ecosystem connectors. We see, again, this is what we call the glue. We see there the very important role of universities, applied research institutes, like we are, the 9 members of STARS EU, and of course other innovation and business support organizations that also exist. And on the right, we see the importance of formal and informal network dynamics. So the formal, we're very much acquainted with the formal networks so far, project consortia, institutional partnerships, all kinds of structured innovation programs. But as we already mentioned, informal networks are also extremely important, and this is something that can be researched further because they are actually the drivers of long-term relationships, also beyond specific projects. And outputs, of course, innovation outcomes, economic outcomes, and we have also many other outcomes, but mainly usually the focus is on innovation. innovation, of course, is quite attractive. Also, when we talk about funding, when we talk about project proposals, it is something that in the European Union, well, it's a more tangible term. We want to always measure innovation. There are a lot of KPIs developed to measure innovation. So we see a lot of times the output focuses on innovation, but but of course there are other outputs as well that do not necessarily have to be innovation. Yeah, so moving on, we have in our initial conceptualization, as I said, the macro drivers. Certain meso-level conditions have to be researched, different RIS profiles. What is the role of proximity, after all, in terms of knowledge exchange, culture, institutional support, and of course the interaction mechanisms I just mentioned, both formal and informal, in this value creation process, which I think is also very nicely exemplified in what we see also in a report from 2024. The regional focuses grouped in thematic priorities. This is the Smart Specialization Strategies report, what we actually share across the 9 regions. And you can see the themes: health, digitalization, mobility, agri-food production industry came out as a very prominent one, energy and tourism and creative industry. I think here Diedrich wanted to share one example as well, right, Diedrich?
Yeah, I think when you map the smart specialization strategies in each region with the other regions, that's the task that we have been doing, that some of us have been doing. Just alone in the region in the northern Netherlands, so the 3 northern provinces, which is our RIS area, there's a huge focus on energy and hydrogen, because some of you might know that the Netherlands, the northern Netherlands, sits on the largest natural gas field in Europe, or probably even beyond. And this gas is running out, and there's earthquakes in the northern Netherlands. So from all the funding that came from this and all the wealth that came from this gas, now there are new ways of complementing natural gas with other sources of energy. So there's a very, very large focus on energy and renewable energy in the northern Netherlands. And this has implications on institutions. For instance, the Hanze University of Applied Sciences, where we are, has energy as one of the main key research and applied research areas. And we are receiving a lot of funding from both national but also international programs, together with the research university next door. We have joint programs, joint study programs, and are involved in many mainly nationally funded projects that go in the hundreds of millions. So you can see that forces new developments, new study programs, and really also a focus on these topics. Another area is digitalization and the role of AI, and we share digitalization with many other regions across Europe and also within STARS EU. And I think this month or next month there is an AI hub, a European AI hub that will be opened in Groningen, and that is also a very, very large push towards AI research, and will connect us as a region to other AI hubs in Germany, in France, in many other countries, but also will advance this technology in our region, and hence enable us maybe, for instance, to apply for more grants in this field. These are just a few examples where a regional strategy that is on the focus from policymakers then affects the ecosystem and existing formal but also informal networks come into play quite practically. Those are the two examples that are very prominent here, and I think every one of you in their own region has their own prominent examples where risks and transitional strategies are very prominent and important. Daniela?
And that's why we actually decided to set a research agenda for the IB International Business Professorship at Hanze with three main goals. First of all, conceptual development, what we already showed and what we are in the process of working on. And of course, we want to research further the mechanisms and actors and how to assess the ecosystem. So assessment of the ecosystem and different KPIs, not only innovation, but also other KPIs, other types of value creation that can be the outcome of the collaborations that we talked about. So this research agenda hopefully will be the beginning of interregionalization and really paying attention to this important aspect. It's not only as a private example of internationalization, as it was usually the case. It was overlooked because it's from the perspective of academia, probably, well, not that different from internationalization, but actually it is. And we see this as really rich avenue for future research. In line with that, I wanted to show an example, which is something that we already presented at the Regional Helix Conference in Braganza in June. We had excellent students in the last academic year, because one of our tasks as an international business professorship is also to work together with students to create small learning communities where very motivated and ambitious students are given the opportunity to develop their graduation project, even starting from bachelor level. So we have both bachelor and master students who participate, but this is an example of 4 excellent graduation theses from bachelor level, on which we based an article. They were priority topics that we gave to the students. Of course, with the emergence of AI, and it is something that is not anymore even new, but a requirement. And we have to reap the benefits of the new technology and see how we can actually use it to enhance strategic alliances. So that was one topic: explore how strategic alliances and AI tools can enhance RIS3 implementation. And it's something that is also future research avenue. Not everything has been explored, but we already have some key findings there from this case study. And the other one was focusing on SME engagement. And those two topics actually come together, because also technology can enhance SME engagement, cross-regional collaboration, and certain behavioral enablers, where different behavioral models were studied by the student. In terms of motivation, opportunity, behavior, how exactly can SMEs be engaged in the longer run as well, because SMEs are rather difficult to engage. And then, yeah, we compared several regions. We had, of course, with Germany, it is easier for our students. They have sometimes also background that allows them to have better access also to SMEs, also to other actors from which they acquire interviews. So we had Lower Saxony, Bavaria, but we also had Northern Sweden compared to the Northern Netherlands. And we are looking forward to continue with this research to enlarge, at least, of course, it's only based on 4 case studies right now, but we can include more regions and see if we can validate these key findings, that the major challenges that were discovered were stakeholder coordination challenges, subsidy access, and the digital readiness. Because digital readiness, we sometimes assume is there, but it is something that SMEs also need help with. And of course, for very concrete recommendations, what was the conclusion that the success of RIS 3 strategy would entail institutional scaffolding or coordination bodies that are also supported by digital solutions such as chatbots, dashboards that can be available for SMEs, for example, to make use of well, to make use of the opportunity to get very quickly questions answered. Also dashboards that, for example, are following the intake of subsidies, what subsidies are available, all those methods that might enable SMEs to be more aware of what they can make use of in terms of well, resources that they can use in order to continue in the transition, the energy transition, the digitalization transition. And of course, finally, behavioral alignment was also a very, very important success factor. It has to do with motivation, opportunity, awareness, that of course drives behavior. So this was one example of what we were busy with in the previous academic year as part of the International Business Professorship bachelor thesis, and how we managed to publish an article which was very well accepted at the Helix Regional Conference, where we actually even received the Honorable Mention Award certificate. So we are very proud of also our students and the level of the quality that they delivered with their work. Diedrich, would you like to take the conclusion?
Yeah, and before I do that, thanks, Daniela. Perhaps one more example, because one of the outcomes were dashboards, and we have been hired by the interregional office from between the northern Netherlands and northwest Germany to build a dashboard for them on the data that has been produced over the last 5 years in all the Interreg projects. And just some of you who are not so familiar, Interreg is a European regional transition fund mechanism. You have bilateral interregional collaboration in bordering regions, for instance, northern Netherlands, northwest Germany, but also, you know, the south of the Netherlands with Belgium, Germany with Denmark, Spain, southern Spain with Portugal or western Spain. So there are a ton of these Interreg regions. Then you have Interreg B, which is a region beyond 2 countries, usually regions such as North Sea from Belgium all the way up to Norway, and etc. So we are currently busy in setting up a dashboard of projects that have been going on in this northern German, northwest Dutch region, Interreg region, and are trying to create KPIs that will help Interreg to make better decisions on stakeholders, also within networks and ecosystems. We saw the overview earlier, the interregionalization framework that Daniela showed, where you have on the right side, informal and formal networks. And in those regions, often the same players apply. But Interreg has no idea when making decisions on the grants, except their own feelings, so to speak, which networks are more successful than others, which formal networks play better together. Is it what is the composition, or what is the ideal composition of these projects for more success, and obviously also for better reaching KPIs that were set in all of these projects. So that's a very practical, but also a very close project with the regional transition fund giver here that we are very keen to learn about, because if you go to the next slide, that will help us to have also more understanding on networks and ecosystems. So obviously, we all want to help our regions as regional universities and regional institutions to have better innovation outcomes with interregionalization and be more competitive, which leads to resilience. And obviously, one outcome could be shared assets. I think we should not always think in physical assets. Knowledge is also an asset and a resource. And what Stars EU is doing, what we are doing today, is also sharing assets, and that's one way to look at interregionalization in quite close by in our Stars EU network. So what we will work on, what we will continue to work on, and this is also hopefully a call for collaborators today or in your networks to work more closely on the conceptualization of interregionalization and to work more evidence-based, because like the example I just explained with the Interreg project and where we are building a dashboard for Interreg is what we like to do further, and to also take better informed decisions based on data. And that will eventually lead to more innovation capacity, especially, and we are coming from a more business and economics point of view, for SMEs who are very prominent in all of our regions, and work for more long-term ecosystem sustainability. That's what happens a lot, and that's what also we have to be very prudent about, is when projects stop, when projects end, what is a sustainable way that these projects and efforts continue to lead for more innovation to whomever they are targeted at. And I think that basically just a little over half an hour concludes our input for today. And we would love to hear your comments, critique, positive, negative, whatever you have to share. We'd be happy to discuss that with you.
Thank you very much, Diedrich and Daniela. Yeah, perhaps if you stop sharing, Daniela, we'll open up the dialogue, the discussion. I think it's a lot of very interesting comments and food for thoughts. So please, if anybody would like to start up with any question or remark, you're free to. Not anybody at this time. Okay, then I'll start up. It's to both of you, but perhaps not least Diedrich, that I don't know how long you've been involved, Daniela, when it comes, but you were in the engaged, you've been back all the time when we have developed this European alliance, Diedrich, and are part of the entrepreneurship thematic group and so on, and all based on this research that you have conducted jointly and with colleagues at Hanze. Which reflection would you have on where we are at this time? What are we lacking? What are we need to work on to improve, to better actually do the things that you have discovered in your research?
Well, yeah, thanks, Gunnar. And it's a nice discussion actually that you start here, because what I've noticed, whether it's Stars EU or other gatherings with universities, with researchers, when you meet, you can only start a conversation or maybe initiate a project if you have something in common. And I think to structure collaborations based, for instance, on, and this is one way to do it, right, is on regional transition strategies, is one way to do it. And because it creates a common ground, and it creates also ways for instance, for funding. I cannot force some business professor, in my case, from a different university who focuses on a complete different field to collaborate with me. But if we share a goal, and if we share, let's say, a home, which is STARS EU, and if we share the goal of bringing forward digitalization in our regions, and by doing that together by interregionally connecting with each other and learning from each other in a dialogue, or and we should see research here a little bit broader than just creating data and writing articles. It's practical collaboration, and I think having a common ground and having a joint agenda that is based on, for instance, shared risk strategies, and having awareness about this is a way to collaborate and actually to make progress in a much more structured way. I think, Katrin, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Daniela. Thank you, Diedrich. I hope you didn't mention this. I was in and out for a second, but I was wondering, how much stock do you think we can put in regional innovation strategies, seeing as they're these products of so much political negotiation in the way that they're being written? I know if you look behind the scenes a little bit and talk to the people who write them, that they are really an amalgam of needs being communicated, political priorities shifting from moment to moment, vanities sometimes, perhaps. And I was wondering, how much stock do you put in them?
Perhaps I can, and then Daniela, if you want to compliment as well. For instance, in my particular case, I have a large focus on Northern Netherlands, Northwest German collaboration, which actually goes all the way to the city wall of Bremen, in your case, Katrin. And they are working on a strategy Nord, it's called. And the strategy Nord or North has been active for about 5 years. And quite frankly, just last week I met with the general manager again from the Interreg office, and she said that they are still working on that, with that strategy North, which has 3 focal areas that are very closely connected to risk. So in our case, it's very consistent. That might be different in other regions, but it is not necessarily connected to daily politics, because it's cross-border. Maybe that's a benefit, because you have to combine different legislation across borders, and that might enhance the sustainability of such policies. Having said that, regional governments also change eventually. We had that here in the Netherlands with the Farmer Party, I think it was, the Boerenpartij, and they really shook things up a lot and put things on hold. But the strategy itself did not change in our particular case.
Maybe Katrin has. I can also add with one example that I actually learned about this from one of these theses that I showed you. We based our article. We worked with a student who actually researched the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence in Bremen, and that was a very good example because it's a specialized innovation hub. It has to do, of course, with data science and also applied research in this very compact regional ecosystem. So it's not about really technological leadership, at least the way I understood this case, that Bremen is really focusing on domain-specific AI applications, particularly in healthcare, which is extremely promising. And I don't think that is that much prone to the political agenda, because, well, healthcare is a sector that needs this transition We have a lot of issues there. There is the shortage also of labor in this industry. And we have also such an initiative now in Groningen. And this is the AI factory that is going to start functioning from the next year. Well, it is in the process of being built, which is an initiative that is financed by the Dutch government. And again, we'll cooperate first with UMCG, which is the University Medical Hospital, which will, of course, also try and put this into the focus, the domain-specific AI applications powered by this AI factory, which hopefully will start running in the next year and a half. And this is also an opportunity not only for the academic university, but also Hanze University of Applied Sciences will be involved. So what we understood from the project of our student, that there was a very close cooperation of University of Bremen with the Bremen Institute for Production and Logistics and this research center for artificial intelligence. Hopefully we can replicate more or less this successful model of cooperation also here in Groningen for collaborative R&D projects, and even work together because we are very close by. And this is, I guess, notwithstanding any political agenda, this is what is the focus, and especially healthcare is one of the very important industries where we should put efforts.
Thank you very much, Daniela. Are there any other questions or remarks that anybody of the attendants would like to make to the speakers? Then I might continue with my questions. Then you talked about that. You showed how much aligned we are when it comes to similarities in the priorities of the region in this alliance of European universities. We have our regions having a lot of common in priorities, and we are well aligned with what the nine different partners are working in the regions. But as I understand, and now I want you to comment on that, is that the key here is persistence, and that we are actually start working together. The knowledge of the competence between the partners and initiatives supported by each partner university to actually make actions. Is that a correct observation on what you're trying to say?
If I may, Gunnar.
Please, Diedrich, could you hold the microphone closer to your mouth?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
So, I mean, working together is the best foundation actually for collaboration is to build on transition topics, for instance. When I just look at, I just have the overview open from in front of me now on the maritime sector, where only three, which is Albania, Canary Islands, and the state of Bremen, the city-state of Bremen, have this in their strategy. But that is already a very concrete example. At the same time, it's also risky. We have to face that as well, because when there is a lot of focus on these areas and a lot of funding going in, then you might be also competing with other projects who are already in this domain active. And so you have to be very careful that you don't replicate programs or replicate existing projects or compete with existing programs. So you have to be also very informed about actors, about networks and ecosystems. So you need to be well connected. And I think if you are connected and if you are active in this field, for instance, we are very connected currently in what I've explained in the interregional context in the north here. Then you know what's going on. It's much more complicated if you are crossing multiple borders, if you're crossing other language zones. So it's very important to be working in, and this is why I think STARS EU can be and is on its way to become a success story, because actors know each other, actors meet on a regular basis, they are connected, they are involved, and if they don't know a certain topic, they know someone who does. So quite practical aspects actually that I can contribute to your question, hopefully, Gunnar.
And I think we should also add the importance of how work packages actually support interregional collaboration, because I'm not personally involved right now in one of these work packages, but for me it was very interesting when Diedrich introduced me to STARS EU. It is quite fascinating that actually people are quite involved. I went to Hanze to present this article, and then I got the question, are you in a work package? And I was not belonging in a work package, but then I was belonging to a thematic interest group. So we have all these structures which are enablers, and they are this meso-level glue that we talked about. So if we continue exploring these opportunities, and every time we meet at the regional conferences, or I establish personally some connections that I'm planning to use. We talked about curriculum development. We talked about the relevance of our international business curriculum, for example, where we can help each other also completely informally without connecting it to a specific work package. But again, this was something that was very valuable for me. When I had the opportunity to go to the conference, I actually had a much more tangible understanding what STARS EU was about. So this is definitely one way, and also the role of the thematic interest groups that are also very strong meso-level connectors, if we want to refer to our framework again.
Yeah, thank you very much, Daniela. Are there any questions, comments at this time?
Yes, Gunnar, if I may.
Yes, sure, please, Celia.
Well, yes, I was very interested by your presentation. Thank you very much. I would like to confirm that the personal level connections is very important. Just this week, I was in Bremen, and in 1 week, 5 days, we advanced more than in 6 months, probably. So every time we meet, we get to get things done, and the personal connection really helps working together. So I think STARS EU is doing a great job right now. We are all doing a great job, and I hope it continues, as you explained before.
Thank you, Celia. Very interesting, and you're right. Many of us experience that. It will be interesting to determine in which level, formal, informal networks, this domain fits what you have just described, and that's also part of our should be part of our research. And so there's more to come, I think. But a very interesting contribution. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Celia, Diedrich, Daniela. Any other comment or question? If not, I have a final question for you both, and that's the importance of the external partners, of the regions, the stakeholders, the external ones, and your thoughts about, because we could work very closely together within the partnership, but we need to be of importance and relevant for the stakeholders. They need to find that this is beneficial and that's of an advantage, and that it actually contributes to development. So I saw some points which were quite interesting in your presentation, but if you could make some final comments on the importance of the regions and the external stakeholders into the interregionalisation development.
Shall I start, Daniela? If we create evidence, which is also one of the key jobs in our as researchers, then I think that's the best way to convince external stakeholders and the partners. I think when I look at STARS EU, if we've built the connection once again, we have taken along our regional stakeholders to annual conferences, for instance, so that they get a feeling and understanding, like Daniela described, how important that is, and Cecilia as well, how important personal connections are, and to seeing it. But if we go a step further, and that should not lie within us, I think the data is there. You just have to use it for understanding interregionalization. I mentioned the dashboard, for instance, that we are currently building. That's a good way to have compelling arguments, evidence-based, and I think that's basically written in our job description within a research group, what we have to do.
And I can also add that we could use the support of other connectors on this meso level. For example, in our international business professorship, we have the EEN, the Enterprise Europe network, which actually is really a strong connection between firms and us in our research and the know-how that we want to disseminate. It's also a matchmaker, but I can give an example. When I was busy with an Erasmus Plus project, which was quite an interesting topic on deemed export dual-use products, which is, I'm not going to go into that topic, but the topic was also quite interesting and relevant considering the very complex geopolitical situation. And I did a training for SMEs. And I was also invited by Ian to make a presentation in front of companies in the Northern Netherlands that were quite interested to know about this topic and expressed further interest after the project was finished for more trainings and more talks about this topic. So I think we can, of course, make use of more connectors, matchmakers that we can get hold of and involve them in the cooperation. But within the International Business Professorship, we have this opportunity. So when it comes to getting the SMEs on board, we might need some external connectors. We might need to develop more of this type of collaborations.
Okay, thank you very much, Diedrich, Daniela. This is most interesting, and thank you for a really nice talk, and thank you all for participation. Now it's soon the holidays. I wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to begin with, and the STAR talks, they will open up again in the end of January. And we will have them advertised on social media and on the website for the STARS EU. And if you have any questions, you are free to contact either Susanne Roth as our officer at University West that handle these. Otherwise, you could contact me, of course, as well. So thank you again for participating and for listening, and not least the speakers. So. See you in the new year.
Thanks everyone for spending the hour with us. And thanks, Gunnar, for your moderation.
Thank you so much. Have a nice Christmas and Happy New Year. Goodbye.